Have you ever felt that your sensitivity, that very thing that lets you connect so deeply with others, is also the source of your greatest exhaustion, and that your ability to feel what others feel is both a gift and, at times, a profound burden? It's not just in your head, because for those of us who experience the world with a heightened sense of empathy, well, this is a really familiar paradox. You can walk into a room and sense the unspoken currents of emotion. You likely understand what people need long before they say a word. This quality probably makes you a deeply compassionate friend, partner, and family member. But if this topic resonates with you, you also know the other side of the story. You know this perceived superpower often comes with a heavy price. That gift, though, it can also be the reason you feel so frequently drained, so misunderstood, and honestly, just surrounded by challenging relationships. It's why you might end your days feeling like you've absorbed a world of emotion that isn't even your own. And this is the paradox of high empathy. Your greatest strength can actually become your greatest vulnerability. Your light, you see, it doesn't just illuminate, it also attracts. And sometimes, well, sometimes it attracts those who seek to consume it. In this video, we're not going to focus on the light and love aspects of empathy. Instead, we're going to explore the hidden dangers that come with profound sensitivity. We'll pull back the curtain on the psychological reasons your compassionate nature might be attracting damaging patterns into your life. We're going to discuss the dark side of being an empath, and more importantly, how to begin protecting yourself. I speak from a place of deep reflection, having navigated this terrain myself. For years, I mistook the exhaustion I felt for a personal weakness, and the toxicity I encountered for simple bad luck. But it wasn't bad luck. It was a pattern driven by an unmanaged empathic nature. Today, we'll break down 5 of the most significant dangers that highly sensitive people often fall into. We won't just identify the problems, though. We'll look at the keys to getting you out. So, if you've ever felt that your sensitivity was more of a curse than a gift, stay with me. This is the conversation you've been waiting for. The first, and perhaps the most defining danger for a person with high empathy, is what can be described as the emotional sponge effect. You know this feeling intimately. You walk into a meeting feeling fine, but you leave carrying the weight of your boss's stress. You have a conversation with a friend going through a hard time, and for the rest of the day you just feel their grief, long after the call has ended. This goes beyond simple sympathy. Psychologists, they call it emotional contagion. While the term empath isn't a clinical diagnosis, it really points to a genuine trait. Some individuals, they just have a heightened capacity to sense and even absorb the emotional states of others. Your brain's mirror neuron system, the one that helps you understand others' actions and intentions, well, it may be exceptionally active. Some studies on vicarious sensation even suggest that highly empathetic individuals can report feeling physical sensations, like actual pain, just from watching someone else in discomfort. You are like an emotional sponge, and without clear internal boundaries, you can just soak up everything in your environment. The problem is, our world is filled with a lot of emotional pollution. You know, things like stress, anger, and fear. When you're constantly absorbing all of this, the psychological toll can be immense. It leads directly to what psychologists call compassion fatigue. You feel perpetually exhausted, and it's not because you're lazy, but because your internal resources are being drained. You see, you're carrying emotional burdens that were never truly yours. This chronic state of being overwhelmed is a direct pathway to anxiety, depression, and burnout. You might find yourself wanting to isolate, and it's not because you dislike people, but, well, it's really an act of self-preservation. Does this sound familiar? That feeling of not knowing where your emotions end and someone else's begin. This confusion, it's a core danger. It makes it incredibly difficult to attend to your own needs when you're so busy processing everyone else's. Now, the solution isn't to stop feeling, no, it's to learn how to stop absorbing. This requires evolving from a passive sponge into an active shield, and this involves 2 key practices: emotional differentiation and what we can call energetic grounding. First, emotional differentiation. This is the conscious act of distinguishing your feelings from others. When a strong emotion hits you, pause. Ask yourself one critical question. Is this feeling mine? If you felt calm moments before, it's highly likely you've picked up on someone else's state. Just questioning the origin of the emotion creates a sliver of mental space. It interrupts that automatic process of internalization. Once you identify an emotion as not yours, you can mentally hand it back. This isn't about being cold. No, it's about maintaining your emotional sovereignty. Second, you'll want to practice energetic grounding. While some of this language comes from holistic traditions, the psychological principle behind it is actually really sound. It's about regulating your nervous system through sensory focus, you know? The simplest way to do this is to connect with your physical environment. Just sit in a chair, plant your feet on the floor, and then close your eyes. Focus all your attention on the feeling of your feet on the ground. Imagine all that foreign, overwhelming emotional noise just flowing down and out of your body. It's neutralized by the simple, solid reality of the earth beneath you. This practice, it really anchors you in your own body and helps you discharge that excess stimulation you've picked up. Another powerful tool is shielding visualization. Before heading into a draining situation, just take 30 seconds. Close your eyes and visualize a protective bubble of light all around you. Set the intention that this shield will filter out any negative or draining energy, while still allowing positive connections to flow right through. This mental practice, it really acts as a psychological buffer, priming your subconscious to maintain a strong energetic boundary. By actively practicing these techniques, you'll shift from being a passive victim of emotional contagion to an active guardian of your own well-being. The second, and arguably most destructive danger for a highly empathetic person, is their vulnerability to manipulative individuals, especially those with narcissistic traits. It's a toxic dance as old as time, the giver and the taker, the healer, and the one who feigns a desire for healing. If you reflect on your past relationships, and you see a pattern of people who were charming at first, but later revealed themselves to be self-absorbed and draining, you are not alone. This is a hallmark of the empath's journey. Individuals with narcissistic traits, who, by definition, lack genuine empathy, are driven by a need for admiration and control. It's what psychologists call narcissistic supply, and your very nature, well, it can make you an ideal source. So, here's why this toxic attraction is so powerful. First, your innate desire to heal and fix is like a homing beacon. Empathetic people often see the wounded person behind the narcissist's grandiose mask. Your compassion kicks into overdrive, and you believe that if you just give enough love and understanding, you can heal them. And this is the empath's fatal flaw. The narcissist? They don't want to be healed. No, they want to be served. They exploit your desire to heal to keep you hooked. Second, narcissists are skilled mimics. In the early love-bombing phase, a narcissist will mirror you perfectly, reflecting your very own values and desires. For someone with high empathy, who often feels misunderstood, this can feel like destiny. But in reality, it's a crafted illusion, designed to secure you. Third, your forgiving nature and difficulty with boundaries make you a prime target. When the narcissist begins the devaluation phase, that's when they start criticizing and withdrawing. Your instinct is to try harder. Your empathy makes you want to believe in the good in them, creating a devastating cycle of abuse that leaves you feeling completely depleted. Protecting yourself requires a radical shift, from healing others to healing yourself. This involves developing a sharp narcissist radar and really dismantling that savior complex. First, you've got to learn to prioritize patterns over potential. Empathetic people, they naturally see the good in others, but narcissists? They're experts at selling you on that potential, while their actions tell a totally different story. You've really got to start trusting behavior over words. So, does this person consistently respect your boundaries? Do they take accountability? Or do they always blame you? When you see a clear pattern of disrespect or manipulation, you simply must believe the pattern, not their promises. Second, you need to understand the red flags of love bombing. Intense, too good to be true connections are a major warning sign. Healthy relationships, they build intimacy over time. But narcissistic relationships, they often feel like a whirlwind, right from day one. Be wary of excessive flattery and instant declarations of being soulmates. Seriously, slow down. A healthy partner will always respect your pace. A manipulator, though, they'll pressure you for constant attention. Finally, you must actively unlearn your savior complex. This, truly, is the hardest part. You have to accept a profound truth. You cannot heal a narcissist. Their personality structure, it's just deeply, deeply ingrained. Your attempts to save them will only result in you drowning alongside them. Your true responsibility, it's to save yourself. This is a profound act of self-love, choosing your own well-being over the fruitless project of fixing someone who doesn't even want to be fixed. By disengaging from the role of savior, you'll make yourself a poor target for a narcissist, and they will then simply move on. The third insidious danger is the slow erosion of your own identity. When you're so attuned to the needs and feelings of others, their preferences, well, they can become your preferences. Their dreams can just eclipse your own. This is a form of codependency, to which highly empathetic people are susceptible. You begin to lose the essence of who you are, becoming a chameleon, simply to maintain harmony. So, take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. When was the last time you made a decision? About a movie, a vacation, based purely on what you wanted, without first trying to accommodate everyone else? Do you have passions that are yours alone? Or have they been shelved, perhaps, to make time for others' interests? For many, their own identity becomes so entangled with others that they can no longer distinguish their inner voice from the noise of external expectations. This happens for a few key reasons. First, your sensitivity to conflict makes you a natural people pleaser. Causing disappointment can feel physically painful, so you learn to adapt, to keep the peace. You become the easygoing one, but this comes at the cost, of your authenticity. Second, you might derive a sense of worth from being needed. Your validation can come from being the caretaker or the problem solver. This reinforces the belief that your value lies in what you do for others, not in who you are. The long-term consequence is a profound sense of emptiness. You might wake up one day and realize you're living a life built to please everyone else. This can trigger a deep existential crisis, resentment, and a real loss of purpose. You've given so much of yourself away that there's almost nothing left. So, the solution, the radical act of self-reclamation. Rebuilding your sense of self is a journey of turning your powerful empathy inward. First, you'll need to schedule some non-negotiable you time. Block out time in your calendar each week that's dedicated solely to yourself. During this time, the only person you're allowed to please is you. It could be an hour to read, walk in nature alone, or work on a creative project. The activity is less important than the intention, which is to listen to your own needs, without external influence. Next, try going on a self-discovery date. This is an exercise in rediscovering your own preferences. Start small. Go to a coffee shop alone and take 5 minutes to decide what you truly want. Or go to a bookstore and pay attention to what genuinely sparks your curiosity. The goal here is to practice making small, low-stakes decisions based on your own internal compass. This really strengthens that muscle of self-awareness. And third, and perhaps most importantly, you need to reconnect with your core values. Values, they're the guiding principles of your life. Take some time to write a list of what's truly important to you. Is it creativity, adventure, authenticity? Once you have your list, start asking yourself, is my life aligned with these values? This list then becomes your new compass. It shifts your decision-making from what will make others happy to what is authentic to me. You see, reclaiming yourself, It's the ultimate act of setting a boundary. The fourth danger is a direct consequence of the previous three, a total boundary breakdown. For many empathetic people, the word no, well, it's the hardest word in the language. The thought of saying it can induce waves of guilt and a fear of being seen as selfish. You've likely been conditioned to be the giver, right? The one who says yes with a smile, even when your inner voice is screaming no. This chronic people-pleasing isn't just a bad habit. It's actually a dangerous vulnerability. Without healthy boundaries, your time and energy, they're treated as public property. You become the friend who's always on call, the coworker who takes on extra work, the family member who always hosts, even when you're completely burned out. This inability to set boundaries, it directly invites exploitation. People learn, often without malicious intent, that you're a resource that can be tapped without consequence. Your reluctance to say no, well, it teaches them that your needs are secondary. This, in turn, leads to one-sided relationships where you perpetually overgive. The psychological cost? It's immense. It breeds deep, deep resentment. This internal conflict between your actions, saying yes, and your true feelings, resentment, it's a potent source of unhappiness. It depletes your energy, leaving absolutely nothing for yourself. Empathy without boundaries isn't kindness. It's a form of self-harm. Learning to set boundaries, it's a skill. And yeah, it will feel uncomfortable at first. But trust me, it's one of the most empowering things you can do. Start by really reframing the word no. You've probably been taught that no is a rejection of a person, but you've got to relearn that a no to a request is often a yes to your own well-being. Saying no to working late, for instance, is saying yes to your rest. Saying no to a draining event is saying yes to your peace. Remember, no is a complete sentence. You really don't owe anyone a lengthy excuse. Next up, arm yourself with boundary scripts. When you're put on the spot, it can be super hard to find the right words. So, having a few pre-prepared phrases, that's a game changer. Here are a few to practice. To buy yourself some time, try, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." If you need to decline politely, you could say, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be able to do that right now." To limit an emotional dump, you might say something like, "It sounds like you're going through a lot. I only have 5 minutes to talk before I have to go, but I'm listening." And for a more general decline, just say, "I appreciate you asking, but my plate is too full at the moment." Practice saying these out loud. It really builds that muscle memory so the words come more easily in a real situation. Finally, start small. Pick a low-stakes situation, Each time you set a boundary and the world doesn't end, you build confidence. You'll discover that reasonable people respect your limits. And the ones who don't? Well, their negative reaction is actually a gift of information, showing you exactly who does not respect you. The fifth and most sinister danger is when your empathy is actively used as a weapon against you. This is a favorite tool of manipulators. They understand your compassionate nature and your tendency towards self-blame, and they exploit these traits to control you. The most common form of this is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation, where a person seeks to make you doubt your own perceptions and, your sanity. And for a highly empathetic person, this is particularly devastating. Here's how it works. A manipulator will do something hurtful. When you react with pain, they'll twist the situation to make it your fault. They'll say things like, "You're being way too sensitive," or "That's not what happened, you're remembering it wrong." Because you're an empath, your first instinct is to look inward. You think, "Maybe I am being too sensitive." You feel their frustration, and your empathy kicks in for them, for the very person who just hurt you. You absorb their narrative and question your reality. This is weaponized empathy. The manipulator uses your ability to see their perspective to invalidate your own. Over time, this erodes your self-trust and your intuition, that gut feeling that tells you when something is off. Gaslighting systematically dismantles this internal alarm system. You stop trusting your feelings because you've been told they're wrong. This leaves you in a fog of self-doubt, more dependent on the manipulator for your sense of reality. Escaping this fog, it requires you to anchor yourself firmly in your own reality. First, you must treat your feelings as non-negotiable facts. Your feelings, they're not up for debate. If you feel hurt, you feel hurt. A healthy person, when told they've hurt you, responds with curiosity and concern. A manipulator, though, they respond with defensiveness and invalidation, telling you, you shouldn't feel that way. The moment someone tells you how you should or shouldn't feel, a massive red flag should go up. Your feelings are your internal guidance system, and hey, they are valid. Second, practice reality checking with a trusted third party. When you're in a gaslighting dynamic, an outside perspective, it's crucial. Describe the situation objectively to a sane, supportive friend. You know, something like, he said X, and I felt Y. Then he told me I was crazy for feeling Y. Does that seem reasonable to you? Getting external validation, that's a powerful antidote. Third, well, keep a record. Now, this may sound extreme, but it's one of the most effective ways to combat gaslighting. When a confusing incident occurs, write down what happened and how you felt. Keep it in a private journal. Then, when the manipulator later tries to twist the event, you can go back to your record. It becomes your anchor to the truth. This isn't about winning an argument with them, no. It's about proving to yourself that your perception, it's reliable. Ultimately, this is about making a sacred vow, to trust yourself again. We've covered some deep and heavy territory today, and if you've made it this far, I want to acknowledge you. It really takes courage to look at these patterns. I know many of you have experienced these dangers firsthand. Your stories truly matter. So, I want to ask you to do two things. First, if this video resonated with you at all, please click that like button. It really helps this message reach others who truly need to hear it. And if you want to continue this journey, make sure you subscribe to the channel, okay? Second, and this is really the most important part, I want you to share one experience in the comments. Which of these 5 dangers hit home the hardest for you, personally? Was it the emotional sponge, the dynamic with a narcissist, the loss of self, the boundary breakdown, or perhaps having your empathy used against you? By sharing your story, you not only validate your own experience, but you let thousands of others know they're not alone. This comment section can be a truly powerful space for collective healing. So, what's the dark side of being an empath? It's the exhaustion, the manipulation, and that loss of self that can come from feeling everything so deeply. It's the danger of your light not just being seen, but being consumed. But it doesn't have to be this way. No, the journey we've outlined is the path to reclaiming your power. It's about going from a sponge to a shield, from a savior to a self-preserver, from a people-pleaser to a boundary setter, and from being gaslit to truly trusting your gut. Your empathy isn't a curse, it's a profound gift. The world needs your compassion and your intuition, but the world doesn't deserve it at the expense of your own soul. The goal isn't to build walls around your heart, but rather to build a fence with a gate. You get to decide who comes in. You get to decide how much energy you give away. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's the most generous thing you can do. Because when your own cup is full, you can give from the overflow, not from the core of your being. When you're grounded and shielded, your empathy becomes a focused, powerful force for good, rather than a scattered, draining liability. Your sensitivity is your strength. It's time to stop treating it like a wound and start honoring it as the superpower it truly is, a superpower that you're now learning to protect. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourselves.